she literally said she's against lesbian privileges. Please explain
What's
to me what those are.
privilege?
I don't know.
You guys, it's knowing where the clitoris is.
Knowing where the clitoris is. You're
That's
right.
what
You're totally
lesbian
right.
privilege is. Duh. I can't believe I had to serve that up to both of you. I'm straight. I'm
just
like the
teed that
straightest
right
one
up.
here.
Welcome to Vanity Veritas, where three vain friends dive into the history of beauty, fashion, and culture, trying to figure out how we got here and why we care so damn much. We're your hosts, Chelsea Feltman,
Elizabeth Urbanzik,
and Christina Cole-Geddes. Today, we have a topic by our one and only Elizabeth. What are we talking about today, babes?
Okay, today, ladies, we are talking about a very important topic, and that is women in politics.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yay.
No, I understand.
for the record, I support women in politics.
100%. This just feels like it's going to be a dicey road.
It'll be a slightly dicey road, but not as much as you might think.
Okay, great.
My inspiration for this episode did come from a very painful moment in our recent past, which is the 2024 election. Spoiler alert for anybody who it didn't go our way. It didn't go our way. But I realized as I was being bombarded with all of this political media, and when I say bombarded, I mean seeking it out, because that's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night. I had this moment of realization, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen Kamala Harris in an evening gown. And I was very interested by that. So I Googled it, and I found an image of her in this really beautiful but relatively conservative black sequin gown by Laquan Smith at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's 2024 Phoenix Awards dinner in Washington, D.C. She's already the nominee at this point. And I remember watching her give this speech, and she's dressed in this very beautiful gown, but still having very politician posture. It's not elbows down, feminine. It's very powerful. And it was such an interesting juxtaposition to see this woman in politics who is, to be very clear, a very beautiful woman. I don't think anybody disagrees that Kamala Harris is a stunning woman.
Absolutely.
And at the time, she's in her late 50s. She's about 60 now. But it was such an odd juxtaposition to see this beautiful woman in this gown with this very political, affirmative posture. So I'm going to drop a link for you, gang, in our chat. Here we go. So this is an article from Women's Wear Daily from last year, sort of putting Kamala Harris's style journey while she's been a public figure on the timeline. I want you to scroll through these images and tell me and the listeners what you're seeing. I think the first image is the most jarring.
I'm so surprised by the three header images, which are three images of Kamala in a blue sequin gown, a gold satin gown, and a black sequin gown. That Cam, look at Cam.
This is so 2001 runway.
So what are we seeing in that first image of her with?
Well,
I think that's
Elizabeth, she's standing with Montel Williams.
Very important. Very important. Mm-hmm.
This is at the Race to Erase Multiple Sclerosis Gala, a very noble cause.
In 2001, bang on.
In 2001. You know how when you look at celebrity runways from 2001, you're like, wow, people really didn't have stylists back then. Not only was fashion kind of bad, but people did not use stylists, which is kind of fun. It was.
Oh
you
my
got
God,
a
it's
lot
better,
more interesting stuff.
It's a better time
back then. And this is an example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's wearing a white or maybe ivory silk or satin plunging,
a slip dress, what do we call it?
Like a slip dress?
I would say it's more than a slip dress because it's definitely more suggestive than a slip dress. Honestly, to me, this is a 110% a Carrie Bradshaw dress.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the little sandals, too.
It actually kind of looks like a white silk version of the very famous, is it the Dior the newspaper dress she wears?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember.
It's an iconic moment, Elizabeth.
I haven't seen it in a million
years. It's so iconic. They wore it again. She's worn it 3 times in a film and also in Just Like That. Sorry. Okay.
I was just going to say I think that what's surprising about it is that it's a very revealing dress. It's very slinky.
And it shows
very
off
feminine.
It very much also shows off her form, and it's sexy.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's a
very
sexy
sexy dress. She was like in her late 30s in this image. And as like you continue to scroll through
But
these
look at this.
images,
Look at this gold satin.
I think she looks fantastic
she
in the
looks fucking
gold.
banging. Not that that's
mhm,
important, but like, damn,
the
Cam.
shoes are terrible, but that's okay.
God, Doug is a
Yeah, but we
lucky
all
man.
did the gladiator sandals at one point. We all wore those.
Yeah,
at
you
one
wore
time or
them all
another.
night, and then when you tried to physically strip them off your swollen feet, and you had the markings for hours.
So as we like scroll through this article, because we don't want to spend all of our time here, but if you
Oh, the
get all
shoes
the
make
way
another
back down,
appearance. Sorry.
oh, do they? Oh, God.
Yeah.
If you go all the way down, you find that black sequin dress that I was talking about. And again, at this point, she is the nominee for president. And you can see sort of how her style becomes a bit more conservative
Yeah.
over that time until we get to this dress. And listen, some of that could be attributed to age, but I think a lot of it has to do with the higher up a woman gets in the world of politics, the more she has to appeal to a very specific audience, right? What women wear in relation to participating in politics, because let's be very clear, women have only had the right to participate directly in American democracy for about 100 years. Huge asterisk, about 50 years for Black women because of the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. From the founding of this nation until the 20th century, politics was by and for men only. And the legacy of that means that women who engage in politics are always under a microscope. They have to appear tough and competent while somehow not sacrificing their femininity in order to appeal to this impressionable audience, whether that's voters or male politicians, and that's fucking exhausting. There have actually been studies that show that voters are less likely to forgive a sloppy presentation by a female politician than a male one. Like, female Bernie Sanders would not be in the Senate for as long as regular Bernie Sanders has been there, right? And since the beginning of the women's rights movement in the mid 19th century, but especially in the early 1900s, women who wanted to participate in politics were being accused of transgressing gender. So this episode is going to be about wearing the pants, metaphorically speaking. The ways in which women's fashion has changed rapidly in the 20th century, and how that was directly influenced by the advancements in women's rights and autonomy, and how it was weaponized against them by conservatives and anti-suffragists by portraying them as manly and ugly, and how none of this has ever changed into our current era. Any thoughts or feels before we get started, friends?
See, that's the female Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I was gonna say female Bernie Sanders feels like very relevant to me, personally speaking. But yeah, no, I'm already thinking about just the impossible double standards, the way that like we can't win, the way that like I was texting Christina earlier about needing a professional corporate outfit for an event on July 30th where I have to look professional and feminine, but not too feminine and not sweat my balls off. And there really is nothing that exists. So multiply that by you're up in front of millions of people running for like government office. And I'm ready to be really mad.
The flop sweat has begun.
Yeah, I think about like a month or so ago, we were on a kind of rampage of texts. And when I say text, I really mean 40-minute voice notes. We have a podcast off our podcast just for us. And it was all about like, am I wearing conservative makeup? Am I wearing tradwife makeup? Do I look, what's the word? It's not just conservative makeup. What's the word
MAGA
for it?
makeup?
Yeah, like do I have MAGA? Do I look MAGA with
It's
my
like
makeup?
Republican makeup.
Yeah, do I
it
have
was Republican makeup.
There we go, Republican makeup. Because I decided to wear makeup, like a full actual face of makeup one day, and that feels its own subversion now of like what does that even mean?
It feels like drag. Well, that's a really interesting question to sort of like start this whole conversation off. In general, broadly speaking, when you think about like female politicians on the left and female politicians on the right, and for everybody getting really specific, I literally mean just like left of center and to wherever that goes, and right of center to wherever that goes. Everybody is included there. How, like, what are the common fashion and beauty tropes of like conservative women and liberal / leftist women? Like, where do you see those tropes?
Do you know what my first thought was?
Mm.
Is long hair.
I was just
Mm.
gonna say hair.
Republican women have, or like women, I shouldn't even say Republican, women on the right, generally speaking, have like long, lustrous hair,
Hmm.
often fairer, but if it doesn't have to be, but like it's long, it's silky, there's extensions, there's a blowout
Right. They're getting
versus,
highlights.
yeah, they're getting highlights versus like someone on the left is much more likely, I feel like, to have a shorter haircut, something that feels maybe lower maintenance or even like, I hate using this word, but I almost feel like matronly.
Mm. Or even colorful too. Like there's,
Sure.
you know, just like the idea of like green and blue haired like
Oh,
liberals.
I meant like literally just anyone, not just politicians. I'm
No, yeah,
specifically
I
thinking
mean
about
anybody.
politicians.
Yeah, or even like even think of like activists, people who are working in political
Sure. Oh,
media,
yeah.
like people who are sort of like in this world trying to be influential for either the left or the right. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so funny. I was also thinking about politicians. And
Mm.
I'm like 100% with you, Christina. But if we like zoom out, I think hair length and style on women is hugely indicative. It's used to signal a lot. Things like piercings, things like tattoos,
mm,
things
Hmm.
like, yeah, dressing, you know, quote unquote feminine or more androgynously.
I was a
Hmm.
androgynously is a great word there.
Right, exactly. So, thank you for bringing up androgyny because that is a perfect segue into one of the most famous moments in women's dress reform, bloomers.
Oh yeah.
Ew.
So, when I say the word bloomers, what are we thinking when I say the word bloomers?
I'm thinking about Samantha, the American Girl doll, Samantha Parkington, and how
Correct.
her outfit came with bloomers, which I also owned as I had her nightgown and bloomer set in my size. But I'm also a
Wow.
bad person to ask about this because I did a project in high school where I dressed up as um, what is it, a rational dress, a member of the rational dress movement / suffragette, and I wore a pair of bloomers and explained what they were and why I was wearing them to my 10th grade English or history class. I was really cool, you
You
guys.
saucy minx.
So cool. Walking around in
Ugh.
bloomers in high school. Well, I have some images to share with you if you want to check the group chat and tell the kids out there what we're looking at here. This is the traditional 18 mid 1800s bloomer suit.
Oh, wow. So these are like
Bloomer suit.
shorter
Bloomer
dresses,
suit.
dresses that hit maybe at the knee or even it looks like some a little bit above with kind of the traditional white bloomers, bloomers being like
Like a
blousey
pantaloon.
pantaloons with like a
Mm-hmm.
little like a gathering at the ankle with a little frill below
Do you
it.
know what they kind of look like?
Hmm?
Those like harem pants that like in
Yes.
2014 you'd buy them at the beach.
Well, you know the
Those
kids
really
now,
baggy harem pants.
there is it is a vibe to wear actual bloomers right now. Like there are
Yeah.
fashion people who are very into wearing just bloomers.
But they're like
And
little bloomers. They're little like shorty bloomers.
no, no
Wait, are
ma'am.
people wearing full bloomers?
Yes, ma'am.
Sweet
Who's
Jesus.
wearing full bloomers?
Okay,
I
one
want
of my
receipts.
favorite I hold your fucking horses. You know what? Continue with the pod. I'll send you something in a moment.
Sounds great. Also, by the way, listeners, in case you didn't know, we always post all the images that we talk about on our Instagram as soon as the episode posts. So if you are sitting here being like, what the hell are they talking about? Go check out our Instagram. We always share the images. So these images that I shared with you, these are the original bloomers. Bloomers are named after Amelia Bloomer. Amelia Bloomer was a 19th century women's rights activist. She attended the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, and she was the creator and editor of the first newspaper by and for women called The Lily. She thought that newspapers were a better method for reaching the public than women lecturing about temperance and suffrage, which was considered inappropriate at the time. Amelia Bloomer was not the first of her contemporaries to sport this ensemble. That distinction went to Elizabeth Smith Miller, another women's rights activist, who basically was tired of the constrictive women's dress of the day. You want to shout out the tuberculosis episode. This is like the height of I can't put my arms down tubercular fashion. Elizabeth Smith Miller was also an advocate for dress reform. So she took on this new look of wearing this long skirt over Turkish style floofy trousers. And to be clear, pants on women were common in other parts of the world, like Asia and the Middle East, just not so much in Western dress. Do we think that this looks comfortable?
Fuck yes.
Well, considering what the alternative, like
Yeah.
this wouldn't be my go-to, but considering what the other options were,
Right.
yes.
Right. Do we think this looks attractive?
I'm gonna be an outlier here and say I think it's really cute. I like it.
I hate it. It looks so comfortable. And again, like if you're used to the alternative of like the hoop skirts and the tubercular bodices and like I can't put my arms down, I get it. But I think this is a very ugly silhouette, and I can see why people did not like these.
Listen, I wouldn't call it balanced, but I think it's got legs.
Silhouette, it's definitely got legs.
Christina.
It's definitely got
Oh, I
legs.
genuinely didn't know I made a pun.
So bloomers became the common garb for early women's rights activists of the mid-19th century. And the style was popularized and promoted by Amelia Bloomer in The Lily, which is how the outfit got its name, the bloomer suit. Now, the backlash to bloomers was swift. Political cartoons have images of women proposing to men, smoking cigars, drinking, sitting in a certain way, neglecting their husbands, and generally behaving in a masculine way. You will find that this is a theme that is going to continue throughout this episode because nothing in history has caused so much anxiety as and threats to the family and traditional gender norms as a bifurcated garment on a woman. So basically, everybody freaks out about bloomers. Men are just like projecting their anxieties on women about this renegotiation of the gendered social order. And eventually, Amelia and several other women stop wearing bloomers, mainly because of the furor surrounding them. They felt that it was distracting from the larger message of women's rights, which is sad. Do we have any thoughts about the backpedaling?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It just feels very like, yep, I saw that coming and we're going to keep seeing it again and again.
Right.
Yep, we are.
It's how we get to like the Sheryl Sandberg lean in, like, you know, you've got to wear the low cut top in order to like get the audience. Like, don't wear the thing that they don't like. Go ahead and like show up in a thing they find palatable so that we can like move steps ahead. Like,
it's just like conceding little bits until, yeah.
Feels like it's there purely to make the men feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
With the idea that like women will vote, but don't worry, they're not going to do anything else.
Right. They'll still be pretty.
They'll still be women. Well, that's actually really helpful because it's really important that we understand the concept of separate spheres at this time. This very Victorian idea that women and men were different, and therefore they are meant for different things. Men were strong and assertive and independent and rowdy, and women were virtuous and nurturing and dependent. Politics and business were for men. The home and domesticity and charity volunteer work were for women. Women weren't supposed to be competitive and base. This was the going social organizing principle at the time. And so the idea of women wanting to engage in politics was radical. Side note, one of my favorite books that I read in grad school was called Making Sex by Thomas LaCour. It's a really famous book in gender history. He basically lays out that up until women started gaining autonomy, everybody believed in what is called the one-sex model of human biology. Basically, that women are inferior inside-out versions of men.
Yep.
Right?
Forgot about that one.
Yeah, exactly. And
I got so excited for a moment. I was like, the one sex theory, is that we're like all human beings and that we're all capable of Nope.
No,
right, just roll that one back.
No.
It's not the cool like trans like queer moment we hope it is. No, it's literally we are inferior inside out versions of men. And it wasn't until women started having power and agency that anybody looked to find biological differences between men and women to prove that they were different and therefore enforce this societal separation. This was also the MO of like racial scientists at this time that are trying to find biological differences between black and white bodies, which is of course bullshit, but would help to sort of like reinforce these hierarchies. LaCour says no one was much interested in looking for evidence of two distinct sexes at the anatomical and concrete physiological differences between men and women until such differences became politically important. Gender is a social construct. So, don't worry, it gets better. Fast forward 60 years. It's the turn of the century, about 1890 to 1920. This is generally known as the Progressive Era. If you're talking about women, if you're talking about men, it's called the Gilded Age. I read an article recently that says men are from the Gilded Age, women are from the Progressive Era, which is very funny. So we're talking about everything that sort of comes out of the Industrial Revolution. We got young women attending college at higher rates. There have been legal changes over these decades that allow women to own property and enter into contracts. Young single women are working in factories and textile mills and shops. Educational financial opportunities meant women had more autonomy, more freedom. It's the new woman. She's educated. She's curious. She's freewheeling. She's delaying marriage and children. She's getting a job at an office or as a telephone operator. Maybe she's joining one of the many progressive movements of the era, trying to improve society in the wake of rapid industrialization and urbanization. We are tossing the corsets. We're tossing the bustles. We're getting comfy, y'all. We're getting a little comfy. Now, because of this, bloomers make a comeback. Yay! But this time they really take off thanks to the improvement and safer design of the bicycle.
I was just wondering. My
Yes.
arch nemesis.
Your arch nemesis, the bicycle. The bicycle offered independence, and it was really bolstered by this 19th century focus on like health and vitality, getting out into fresh air. Again, like rapid urbanization. Everybody's in factories, everybody's in tenements. It's like, get out, breathe the fresh air. Now, there was a lot of controversy about women on bicycles. It was leading young women and innocent girls into ruin and disgrace. They would have to assume an immodest posture.
Ride that shit.
Yeah, ride
it,
that saddle.
Sweet little Gibson girl. Sorry, I've
If
been reading a
you're
lot of like
horny,
Regency smut.
Let's do it. Ride it. My penny
bicycle.
But like one of the things that was most controversial was sort of the bicycle bloomers, the outfits that women wore. Again, bifurcated garments on women. Everybody lost their minds. But women didn't really care. They were like, this is comfier, this is better, and I have another image to show you. There we go.
Also, cut me saying bicycle, penny farthing, much funnier.
Cut to us getting sued by Genuine.
Can't wait.
Immediately. So I just sent you an image that is an advertisement. Who would like to describe what we're looking at?
May I?
Please
This
do.
is a drawing. Maybe it appeared in a newspaper or magazine. It says, graceful as the new woman. All the time. At work. A wheel. In negligee. Is she who wears a GD? I'm guessing that doesn't mean goddamn.
It's gauge downs. You can see at the
I-
bottom.
A goddamn bicycle waist.
I like that better, actually. I like it better.
The most sensible garment ever invented. Okay, so this is like singing the praises of this bicycle waist. And the drawing is of a lovely woman wearing some sort of like, it looks kind of like a bodice or a shirtwaist. Not a shirtwaist. A bodice, maybe like a corset bodice.
Yeah.
It's the
with a
bicycle
little-
waist. That's the
A
bicycle
ruffle
waist.
underneath.
Yeah.
That's okay. That is the bicycle waist, and she
Yeah.
is wearing big, voluminous. I am assuming bifurcated pants. But yeah, love. She looks great.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here is a shortening of the traditional corset, right? It doesn't go past her waist. So
Ah.
now she can sit on a bike. It's a much more comfortable way to get about town. So that's why it's called the bicycle waist, right?
Oh, so we're inching towards a brassiere.
Yeah.
Inching
yeah.
towards the brassiere evermore.
It says it's elastic at the sides, gives with every motion of the body, and it has elastic shoulder straps.
Oh, of
which
course,
is,
because
like,
we're
must
starting
have-
to fuck with elastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have
that's
a
gotta
last clue at this
been-
point.
Huge.
That's got to be huge, right?
The advent of leggings.
Yes, the advent of the legging. I also, in the description, I can't tell if it's saying a wheel in negligee, but I also like the idea of it that it's a wheelin'. Like
A
it's
wheelin'.
A
a wheelin'.
wheelin'
All the
negligee.
time at work, a wheelin' negligee. I know that's not what it is, but that's how I read it the first time, and it made me laugh. So yeah, we got these new outfits, new undergarments that allow women to be a little more free. Again, the new woman. Now, there is again anti-bloomer panic. Everybody loses their mind. But perhaps my favorite thing to come out of the anti-bloomer panic of this era is the ways in which political cartoonists depicted the bloomer girls. Hold please for some bloomer girls images. These are some of my favorite things that I found. And I want you to tell me what you're getting out of these images.
I'll tell you
Who's
one
the
thing. I want a
first?
T-shirt with anti-bloomer panic on it.
Anti-bloomer panic. So these first two, pretty mild, these first couple.
These look like some Sarah Waters lesbians.
Yeah.
This is tipping the velvet.
Here's the thing. To modern eyes, they look rad.
They look fucking rad. This is two women in basically what looks like men's, like dandy-esque men's clothing. One's got a top hat and a lovely long
And a
coat.
cane.
Yeah. The other one is, should we say, a buxom woman wearing like a shorter coat and what do you call those pants that come to your knee? Like short,
Like knickerbockers.
Yeah, like a knickers.
Yeah.
And she's got a bulldog on a leash, which I feel like is implying something.
It's like I see this and I see like hot mask and cool old butch.
Yes.
Like that's what this is giving me.
Big time. There's the second one where it's like,
okay, but this is hot.
That's what I was about to say. This looks very sexy. So it's two, I guess, women in these like Knickerbocker style bloomers. One is in more of a suiting, sort of bow tied, mutton sleeved, behatted on her bicycle. And then there's this kind of slutty one who looks like she's very sweaty coming off of
I think she's in
almost
a
like a
bathing
costume.
suit.
Yes, exactly.
It's a bathing costume. Yeah.
Oh, hot.
This next one I'm obsessed with because so all of these, I should mention, all these images I'm sending you are from the William H. Walker cartoon collection. And he's kind of ahead of his time in terms of satirical cartoons and magazines, but he's really sounding the alarm about like the degradation of gendered society with these women in bloomers, right? So the whole idea is to show off the preposterousness of these ladies behaving like men. And let me show you the next one because they all have titles, but this next one is literally titled ... Oh.
Sorry, that's the funniest title you could.
Oh.
Okay, hold on. I got to talk about this. I think these are horny as shit. Like,
right?
I think these are Victorian porn. Like, and like, here's the thing. I was genuinely expecting you to show me ugly women. I thought you were going to show me like crones with like, you know, some sort of like witch-like figure disfigurement. Like, I thought these are hot women. Like,
yeah.
To be clear, those are coming later. Don't worry.
I don't
This is a babe. This is a babe getting dressed in front of her dresser, putting on a tie or a cravat.
And her beleaguered husband in the background.
You know what? He looks very haggard. He looks very unkempt.
And then in the last
and I feel like this says a lot more about him than it does about her.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's like lazy and in a dressing robe. And then the last one is this very attractive, like kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, she's like a soft butch.
Like debonair. Yeah.
Debonair is a great word. Yes, like very debonair with a cigarette, and it looks like soda water with a very narrow drinking
like those old
glass.
seltzer bottles.
Yeah, like a seltzer bottle, but I imagine there's maybe gin or whiskey in that drink because you would have it with seltzer, and a book and like a leg cross, and then three young women rather, who are beautiful, very beautifully drawn, looking kind of aghast, but like in shock.
They're all
like,
gonna hook up.
They're fully gonna fuck.
This is what I'm saying. This is why I love the title of this image being because it's like, are they being like, oh, like, again, you know that this guy was writing it to be like, they were scandalized and this was atrocious. But at the same time, with our modern eyes looking back at it, we see three women being like, oh, that's a really hot woman. I have one more to show you from this same series. This is called Bloomer Girl's Wedding. I'm obsessed with this one. This is
Oh my God, I love it.
Fierce.
So what are we looking at for the listeners at home?
We're looking at a wedding ceremony.
Yeah, and so the bride and groom are standing up in front of the priest,
And the groom is
notably the groom is holding the bouquet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the bride is
and
in a like besuited bloomers tuxedo.
Yeah, she's like wearing a suit with mutton leg sleeves and bloomers. And so is her whole bridal party behind her.
She's also taller than her
She is
groom
taller
as well,
than
which I
him.
find.
And he's like looking down like bashfully, and she's staring
Yes.
very stoically straight forward because she's about to go into a lavender marriage that she's not excited about.
Yeah, they get so fucking gay. And it's also funny because there was this general idea at the time of like the silliness and preposterousness of lesbianism. Because at this point, like, men could not understand sex outside of like penis in vagina. So they had no concept of how women would have sex with each other. Like, it is so funny with our modern eyes looking back at these images and being like, look at these hot masked lesbians. And at the time they were just like, isn't this silly?
This
Ladies
is
want you to kiss
ridiculous.
other ladies. How nonsensical. And what the slippery slope. And it's very funny. There are other images of like two girls kissing. That's like, all the ladies are doing a man's job now.
Slippery slope indeed. She knows that well.
She knows that slippery slope.
Yeah.
Here, these are some ladies kissing. And again,
This
it's
is
like this idea of the
obscene.
preposterousness. It's so funny to me. Girls are doing all the fellas' jobs now.
Oh my goodness.
Do you know how many like 19-year-old, 20-year-old women saw this in a magazine? We're like, so silly. I'm going to keep this.
To me, I imagine this is like, you know how back in the day you couldn't have like gay porn in a magazine, so they had all the fitness magazines in the 1950s, like
Yes.
Physique, and it's all like hot dudes with big muscles, and they're like, oh, it's about working out. I imagine these like political cartoons were the same for like turn of the century lesbians, just
It's
like
wild,
snipping that out, keeping it somewhere
Because
safe.
I feel like like the vibe of especially the first ones you showed us in the black and white, I feel like there's an aesthetic there that has been very much reclaimed as like being fashionable. Like I look at that and think like they look so cool, they look so chic, they look so in their power. There's nothing
Right.
about that I think looks like funny or satirical.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So the funny thing about a lot of these images, and we'll see them more as we talk about the suffrage movement, is how much men are sort of telling on themselves with these images.
That they can't find a clitoris. Sorry.
Yes, true.
I'm sorry, the what?
The
who?
clitoris.
The listen to some Chapel Rock.
Clitoris.
Oh God, I hate when people say clitoris.
Samantha Jones.
Anyway, let's chat about women's suffrage, because this is that time, right? We're at the turn of the century. We're in this sort of like last push towards the 19th Amendment. The Western states at this point have slowly but surely been granting women the right to vote. Do you know the first state to grant women the right to vote? It's Wyoming. Wyoming was the very first state to grant women the right to vote, followed by Colorado and Utah and Idaho, and more to follow. So this is when we meet suffragist Alice Paul.
Is there a reason? Sorry, I was going to say, like, is it because like homesteading women were like more equal participants?
It's that, and it's also the fact that the population is small. There are places where so like every vote counts. So it is a combination of both of those things. But a big part of it is just like, we don't have a lot of people out here. We need more people to vote, and women are really holding their own out here. So let's give ladies the right to vote, right?
Wow.
So we have suffragist Alice Paul. She was inspired and worked with the women's suffrage activists in the UK, these women who went on hunger strikes and went to prison, much more radical than the Susan B. Anthonys and the Elizabeth Cady Stantons of the mid-19th century. She's also super media savvy at the time. Now, we have to think about where voting was actually happening during this time. It wasn't at the elementary school. and it wasn't at City Hall. It was in pubs and tobacco shops and saloons. Because again, this was a man's gig. So, and this was at a time where party bosses could go in and like liquor up the voters to get you to vote for them. I highly recommend, by the way, there is a whole podcast about the history of voting that Throughline did during the last election. Highly recommend. It's very interesting. But just generally, these are places that like respectable ladies wouldn't be. And what did it say about women who wanted to like engage in politics and enter into these spaces? Enter Harriet Stanton Blatch, daughter of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who walks into a polling place on the Upper West Side at 53 years old and says, hey, state law does not prohibit non-voters from serving as poll watchers. And so she sits in and starts being a poll watcher and like a poll worker, and really helps to sort of whip into shape some of these spaces. And other sort of like society ladies follow her lead and start going into these spaces as poll watchers. Which I'm sure the men were like, mom's here. But it sort of helps organize things in a bit of a better way, right? So let's talk about Alice Paul. She finds a very important lady named Inez Milholland. Inez Milholland is one of Alice Paul's greatest weapons. Now, Christina, you mentioned before what you assumed I was going to show you in these images. The bloomers suits, we got hot masks. But when we're talking about the suffragettes, which was actually a pejorative term, which I grew up saying, the anti-suffrage images are a bit worse than the hot masks. So when I say ugly suffragettes, what are you thinking?
I feel like I've seen some of these political cartoons, and they're just like very unflattering, kind of mannish, dowdy. Dowdy is the word, I think.
Witch. I always think of like the Wicked Witch of the West, like a big, oversized, hooked nose and moles and like wrinkles and like saggy boobies.
Dour and dowdy.
Yeah.
And, I would say.
I'm about to send you an absolute glut of the images you just talked about, both of the ugly suffragette, but also of some other ways that sort of propaganda was used in the anti-suffrage movement.
This is wild.
Nobody loves me. Guess I'll be a suffragette.
As she is crying and steps into a pair of pants.
Yep.
With a baby doll that's missing a leg.
Oh my God.
That's grim.
Okay, this next one is really something.
I want to vote, but my wife won't let me.
And it's a man.
Everybody works but mother, she's a suffragette. But it's sort of a hot queer man.
Like a twink doing laundry.
Honestly, this looks like a drag performer that had to go home and do laundry after being Judy for a little while.
And is like co-parenting his baby as he should.
Yeah.
Again, telling on themselves. Telling on
Right.
themselves. They're like,
Right.
I'm going to have to do this horrible
I'm
thing
gonna
that
have to do
women
that.
do. I'm a big fan of the fourth thing I sent you, which is the suffragette bar, which says nothing but ice cream and pretzels. Oh, joy. I don't quite know what that means.
You guys, I need you to know something. My birthday is not that far off. I know Chelsea's is before mine, but mine's not that far off. And if someone framed this for me, I'd be fucking thrilled. That's my entire life's motto. Nothing but ice cream and pretzels. Oh, joy.
Am I supposed to think that's a negative thing? Am I supposed to not want nothing but ice cream and pretzels?
Right. Also, like, I think these women look like fucking Tim Burton characters. Like, it's not that bad.
They are so cute. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So, but like the general themes we're getting from this, right? It's like suffragettes.
Oh my God. We didn't. Elizabeth, hold the fucking phone.
So sorry. What?
You didn't address this origin and development of a suffragette image. You were just going to drop that and let us sit with it?
Go ahead, read it through.
At 15, a little pet, which is a curly-haired girl playing with a doll in a little dress. At 20, a little coquette. She gets some boobies. At 40, not married yet. She sort of looks like what you think of when you think of the old maid in the game of cards. At 50, a suffragette. And she looks like you know that scene in Beetlejuice where Gina Davis has to pull her face into being a monster?
Yeah.
That's what this looks like.
Yes. And
It's-
she's also carrying a hatchet for
Yeah.
some reason.
It's giving
Yeah.
like Carrie Nation going in and like, you know, because
Yes.
remember like the suffrage movement and the temperance movement were sort of like working like simpatico. I also think she looks like if you think of like the meme of the angry liberal
Yeah.
of that like the woman in the glasses with the short hair like like that's what it's giving, right? So yeah, the overall themes in all of this is like the women who want suffrage are unloved, old maids, ugly, mannish, unwomanly, across the board, right? There is this, I didn't send you the worst one. Hold on.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
There's one more
What
that
more?
I have to show you. This is probably the worst one I found.
Get fucked, Chelsea. You have to
Oh,
describe this. I'm not
no.
touching this.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I am
This
not
is-
for a fucking second describing this.
This is really bad. Everyone, this is really bad. Well, it's a picture of a person and it says, "We want the vote." And I will just say this is one in a long line of portraying certain people as having perhaps animalistic qualities. It honestly reminds me of really racist depictions of Black people
Yes.
and also of Jews in Nazi
Yes.
Germany,
and indigenous people.
and indigenous people. Just yes, this very grotesque portrayal of someone to show them as sort of degenerate. And she's wearing a hat with flowers on it, though.
You're like, at
that's
least
kind
we
of-
have that.
With
at
her
least she's
one
wearing
front
a-
shaved down
one
tooth fang.
front, fang in the middle. It's
Mhm.
really, really, this is really disturbing. Honestly.
It's grotesque.
really
It's
bad.
horrible. So now we have a general idea of how the suffragists were being depicted in this era, right? This really hardcore propaganda to portray these women as ugly, mannish, old maids, unlovable, wanting to go into men's spaces, transgressing gender, etc., right? So we have Inez Milholland. Inez Milholland was a young socialite. Her comings and goings were frequently in the society pages of the New York Times. She was a law school graduate and a practicing lawyer. She advocated for costume reform. She was pals with Alva Vanderbilt, also
my
a
queen.
suffragist, yes, albeit one with extremely deep pockets, thanks to her
Yeah,
two lucrative marriages.
Also a
and
cantankerous bitch, but
yeah, she was also a member of the Heterodoxy Club.
yes! I was hoping so bad it was going to come in.
It
Oh.
came in. We did it.
Yes.
So, Christina, do you want to tell the people? Because I know we've wanted to talk about the Heterodoxy Club in this podcast, and we've never quite found a good
It's
place
so-
for it.
Yes. The Heterodoxy Club was a club for quote unquote unusual women who didn't fit societal norms in the West Village of New York City. And it was filled with all different kinds of women who we would now describe in a myriad of ways, from being just suffragettes to not wanting to wanting to practice at the time free love, i.e. like you could get divorced or decide who you were going to marry, to being queer or trans or all sorts of things. And they were exceptional, and they met every other week at a little coffee shop in the village. And they often got to speak with activists like what's her name? Emma Goldberg.
Emma Goldman.
Speak with activists like Emma Goldman. Thank you so much. I'm too excited. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have notes.
I didn't want to spoil it,
Oh
so
my
I
God.
was like, you know enough about the Heterodoxy Club. I know she'll be able to give a little bit of a background.
They put out a newspaper, a magazine for themselves, and I have several issues and like articles and cartoons that were written and drawn for it, and it's so great. And there's some really great things about like satirical things that are basically these exact images we're talking about, but being like, oh, they're just good friends.
Yeah.
But they couldn't afford 2 beds, so they just shared one. Like, it's
Just
great.
good pals.
Yeah.
So now we get an idea of like who Milholland was and sort of the circles that she was moving in, and could very easily sort of be like whipped up with the idea of the ugly suffragette. But unfortunately for everybody, and very fortunately for Alice Paul, Inez Milholland was stunningly beautiful. I just dropped an image of her in
Can
the
we
chat
see?
so
I
you
wanna
can get an
see a pretty
idea.
lady.
She's
Oh.
Oh,
just
pretty lady.
very
Babe.
beautiful. She was all over the society pages. You can go back into like the New York Times archives and read them like talking about her comings and goings all the time. It's kind of great. So Milholland was really essential for Alice Paul's rebrand of the suffrage movement. Again, very media savvy. Paul organized a massive protest march in Washington, D.C. on March 3rd, 1913. This was to whip up support and some momentum for the constitutional amendment for women's suffrage. And this parade was held the day before Woodrow Wilson's inauguration. And in that parade, they sent out Inez Milholland at the front of the line dressed like this.
Oh, she's on a white horse wearing some sort of like beautiful flowing white cape with gorgeous cascading hair and like a diadem.
She's
Mhm.
Lady
kind of tiara.
Godiva.
Yeah.
Yes.
I sent you also the official program for the procession of the march with the illustration on the front of this, again, this rebrand of the suffrage movement. This is what they were fighting against those horrible images with. This idea of women as like Columbia, Liberty, Joan of Arc, astride a white horse, coming in with their banners, right?
Yeah, it's giving Marianne, like the French
Yes.
mascot of France. It's
Yes.
giving, yeah.
It's like send out the beautiful woman because it's really influential, right? It gets the women who weren't on board with the suffrage movement or didn't want to be outspoken about being for women's suffrage a little more on board because they could be like, people aren't going to think I just look like the old maid. This is another female archetype that I can cling to that is a part of this movement. And I was reading in an article about Inez Milholland, which is called The Most Beautiful Suffragette and the Political Currency of Beauty. She says Milholland's role as the beautiful messenger of the movement did make her vulnerable to attacks from anti-suffragists, and her heightened visibility provided a target for scathing commentaries and public parody. Shortly after the Fifth Avenue Parade, sophomore students at Columbia University, why is it always Columbia, staged a mock drag suffrage parade down Broadway. Leading the way was a student dressed as Milholland astride a white mule and brandishing a banner which read "Votes for We Men." Other students dressed as women of all ages wheeled baby carriages containing quote unquote babies made of bundles, which they tossed into bonfires after the mock election deciding whether to continue carrying the burden of their quote unquote babies.
Jeez.
Yeah. Gross. Gross, right?
Also, like, why do men love to dress up as women to shit on us? Like, why do men love to dress up as? It's like they will find any excuse to get in touch with their feminine.
It's so funny. It's for a joke. It's just for a joke.
It's just
It's
for
so
a joke.
funny.
Like, I totally
It's for
don't
a
want to.
joke.
I'm not doing it because I like it.
This doesn't mean anything to me.
It's Halloween.
Have you ever seen the TikTok of the guy who like puts on a dress just for fun and then he's like, God damn it, this is actually this looks really nice. I like this a lot. Now I also want to be clear, so I'm not forgetting, this protest march was met with extreme violence and the police did not intercede. 100 women were hospitalized because of said violence. And there was a huge backlash. It kind of had this it brought a lot more publicity to the cause and made people a lot more sympathetic to the suffrage activists because of how much violence they came up against, right?
Well, and I'm sure like violence against beautiful feminine women is a lot more likely to garner sympathy.
Correct.
Ooh.
I know. This is how we got the right to vote, kids. This is how we did it. So speaking of the anti-suffragists, let's talk about them and the ways in which they tried to convince women that they didn't need the vote. The anti-suffrage movement was overwhelmingly led by women. Generally women of wealth, privilege, social status, political power. They're women doing well under the status quo. So they had the incentive to maintain the status quo, in case that sounds familiar. So I'm going to send a few more images to you, but there's one in particular. The first one I sent you is sort of using this same imagery of this like Grecian, Western, like classical womanhood. It says the appeal of womanhood, and a woman holding up a banner that says, "No votes, thank you." No votes, thank you. But behind her, again, the strident, gangly, ugly suffragist. And you can see there's Big Ben in the background. This is part of the UK anti-suffrage movement. But again, like this constant back and forth of using femininity and masculinity to have this argument about suffrage, right? Christina,
This
you have
second image, I didn't not expect the second image of like it's a staircase that starts with love, marriage, children, home, ambition, and then social achievement, admiration, career, artistic success, professional triumph, flattery, disappointment, suffrage, strife, anxiety, loneliness, and the woman is like now decrepit and staring down, and the like it's getting more and more sad. But the apex at the top of this staircase is fame.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is I need this one framed. And there's two little children down at the bottom, like holding flowers and like waving up at her, like, "Mommy, mommy, come back down the staircase, mommy."
No, she's ambitious.
I'm fascinated that like, I mean, because I feel like that's a dig today if they say like, oh, you just want to be famous. Like, I think that's interesting that they associate it with that like a woman wanting to be known, or that like a woman wanting the vote equates a woman wanting to be known equates to like a woman wanting to be adored by the public.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's...
Yeah, absolutely. Again, at this time, women are not supposed to be competitive. Women are not supposed to be politicians. That was base and crass. So the idea that any woman would have political ambition towards fame, that's gross. And then I sent you a pamphlet that was basically anti-suffrage sentiments being folded into housekeeping tips.
Chelfel, I need you to read this in your voice.
Housewives, you do not need a ballot to clean out your sink spout. A handful of potash and some boiling water is quicker and cheaper. Like, I'm sorry, how is that relevant to anything?
This is incredible.
Control of the temper makes a happier home than control of elections.
Why vote for pure food laws when your husband does that, while you can purify your icebox with malarious water? Malarious water? I can't read that. It's so fuzzy.
To drive out mice, scatter small pieces of camphor in cupboards and drawers. Peddlers and suffs are harder to scare.
Oh my goodness.
I love, there is, however, no method known by which mud-stained reputations may be cleaned after bitter political campaigns.
Wait. Butter on a fresh burn takes out the sting, but what removes the sting of political defeat?
P.S. listeners, if you put butter on a burn, it will fucking scar like nobody's business. Never ever put fat on a burn.
I did not know that.
Oh yes, you should never ever put an ointment or a fat or something like very occlusive over a burn while there's still heat in it. You need the heat to burn off, run it under cool water, and then when it's no longer hot to the touch, then you can put an ointment on it. You're welcome.
Thank you for the first aid.
Goodness.
I also love, if an anti swallows bichloride, give her whites of eggs. But if it's a suff, give her a vote. Great. And I want to be clear, it is folded in with completely normal things. Like when boiling fish or fowls, add juice of half a lemon to water to prevent discoloration. Celery can be freshened by being left overnight in a solution of salt and water. So like there are actual housekeeping tips here, but they're like getting in these digs against the suffragists as part of... Does this remind you of like the tradwife to right-wing pipeline that we're seeing these days? Yeah.
It's right there on the surface, which is interesting, but it's totally like, hey, do domesticity instead. It's also giving like, hey, being a housewife is great. You don't need the vote. It's giving like your boss being like, you don't need a union. We'll just give you pizza parties. Isn't it fun to work for us?
I'm your advocate.
We're just one big family.
Exactly.
Was it Steve Jobs who coined the term being in velvet handcuffs in the walled garden? That like, I think it was Steve. Yeah, I think it was Steve Jobs who said like the goal of Apple was to place you in velvet handcuffs in walled gardens. So like, it's beautiful, and like this is like, why would you want this? These are bracelets. Like, you know, but you're trapped. You're completely locked in. And I feel like so much of that, and the tradwife thing too, is like, oh, it's beautiful though. And having 10 children to help you out, that's how a village is supposed to be.
What these women are sort of fighting against is, again, this like they're so convinced that it's going to destroy society if there's this like renegotiation of gender roles, right? And also they believe in sort of the things that women are protected by this idea of women are to be taken care of by their husbands. They're like, I don't want to join the workforce. I don't want to, like, it's such an interesting conservative movement at the time where these women are so hell-bent on hanging on to the status quo and not getting the vote because one of their arguments was, well, men, obviously, they vote for the family. They take all of our concerns into account. If women get the vote, then men will vote for whatever they want. It's like, what's
LOL.
telling
So
you? Like,
interesting.
what do you think they're doing now? You think they're taking,
Right.
yeah, this idea of like voting for the household, and it would like, yeah.
It makes me think of the department store episode, which is the reason we started selling to women is because men don't buy for the household. Women buy for the household, by and
Mhm.
large, traditionally, I should say. And like, that's so, what a crock of shit we were always sold.
So now, obviously, the anti-suffragists didn't win in the end, at least where voting is concerned. The 19th Amendment was passed. It granted women the right to vote. Again, huge asterisk here. Black women didn't have full voting rights and protection until the Voting Rights Act in the 1960s. But speaking of conservative women, we're going to fast forward again. The 1970s, Phyllis Schlafly
God
and
damn
the
it, I knew it.
ERA.
I knew she was coming.
We're not going to spend too much time on Phyllis, but we're talking about the 1970s. Again, a big push forward for women, more women entering the workforce. New issues are coming to the fore, like equal pay, workplace discrimination, abortion, sexual harassment. The women's live movement is really picking up steam in the late 1960s. Do either of you know about the 1968 feminist protest outside of the Miss America pageant?
Yes.
Was that the bras?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is where the bra-burning radical
Bra-burning.
feminist stereotype came from. September 7th, 1968, 200 feminists and civil rights activists descend upon an Atlantic City boardwalk, and they have the Freedom Trash Can. And it's here that they are tossing in bras and hairspray and makeup and girdles and corsets and false eyelashes and mops, among other items. And they unfurl a huge banner that says women's liberation inside the actual contest hall. And it draws worldwide media attention for the women's lib movement. And again, this is sort of where the bra burning radical feminist stereotype came from. Whether or not they actually burned them is a matter of debate. Some people say they did. Some people say they didn't, but it took off because like enough people heard they burned their bras. So that's where that came from. So again, feminists are interrogating fashion and what they were supposed to wear and the kinds of things they needed to do. Should women be merely defined for how they look? They're deliberately rejecting gender binaries. They're cutting their hair short. They're not shaving. They're eschewing makeup. I want to be very clear, not all women. Very specific feminist women. And again, they're generally freaking people out. They are trying to erase gender or destroy womanhood.
She's using air quotes, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of air quotes happening here. I just want to let everyone listening understand that.
I do not endorse the erasing of gender. Oh no, this is turning into a very different podcast. And I love this quote. Lesbian feminist Coletta Reed perhaps put it best. Female clothing, just like female hairstyles, are all aimed at making the differences between men and women readily apparent. If men and women dressed and acted alike, how would men know who to treat as inferior, who to hire as secretaries, and who to sexually assault? So again, there's this huge conversation happening about femininity, gender binaries, how we should look. And these are women who are actively rejecting the female beauty culture as it pertains to attracting men or like distinguishing between male and female. So we come upon the Equal Rights Amendment. The Equal Rights Amendment stated, equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. It was first proposed in 1923, and it was proposed in nearly every single legislative session. And in 1972, it passed. And what happens after you pass an amendment? It has to go to the states to be ratified. And 2/3 of the states have to ratify the amendment. So they get the momentum going, and state legislatures start passing it. We hit a bit of a stall thanks to Phyllis Schlafly. Phyllis Schlafly was the public face of the anti-ERA movement. She was a mother of 6. She ran for Congress and lost twice. She had a master's degree in government from Harvard and a law degree from George Washington University, went on to work for conservative think tanks against the ERA. But the way she referred to herself was as a homemaker and a mother, and she prided herself on never having had a paid job after she got married. What?
She also, do you know this? She invented editing things out of context.
No, say more.
Phyllis Schlafly and like the anti-ERA movement, like her close circle, they were the first people to ever take an audio tape of someone and cut it up to make it say something different out of context.
Really?
It wasn't, but not satirically. Like she wasn't doing it satirically. They were using it as
she was like taking a soundbite out of context to make
Correct.
it sound
To be
like someone
manipulative.
said something awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was anti-abortion rights. She literally said she's against lesbian privileges. Please explain to me what those are.
Privilege?
I don't know.
You guys, it's knowing where the clitoris is.
Knowing where the clitoris is. You're right. You're totally
lesbian
right.
privilege is. Duh. I can't believe I had to serve that up to both of you. I'm straight. I'm like the straightest one here.
She was anti-publicly funded childcare. She saw all of these as anti-family. Again, it's this conservative women movement happening all over again. She believed in the idea that men were to be providers for women and that women should be protected and provided for by men.
Even though she was providing for her husband for most of the latter half of their life, because she came from an immense amount of money.
She came from money. She came like the idea that this incredibly, again, like the anti-suffragists and the anti-ERA women are a fascinating study in contradictions, because these are smart, ambitious, politically savvy, educated, media savvy women who are doing their absolute damnedest to, I don't know, pull up the ladder behind them. It's so wild.
And like generally speaking, and this is a general term, I understand it's not everyone, but generally speaking, financially independent, whether it's from inherited wealth or from like their own sort of like quote unquote side hustle. Like Ballerina Farms is fucking financially independent. I don't know if the money goes to her or her husband. That's like I don't know. We'll never know after that article, but
but yeah, but again, like the women who are fighting against it, against the ERA, are women of privilege. These are women who are not affected by workplace inequality. They're not affected by wage inequality. They're not in these spaces. They're not women who, for whatever reason, have to have a job. And so they have these incredibly privileged blinders on. And Schlafly also, like, up until her death, like she believed in this shit up until her death. She always appeared classic, well-groomed, hair up, smart skirts and suits, very feminine. Because her contemporaries, her women's lib contemporaries, were Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan. It could not have been a more like obvious switch between these two groups of women.
And the irony being, Betty Friedan didn't really like Gloria Steinem and didn't really like, she was sort of anti-bra burning herself. She was more of the like, I want to look of a kind of certain feminine way, more so than like Bella Abzug or even Shirley Chisholm, who didn't have the privilege to do that. But like, sorry, I'm going to light myself on fucking fire.
Please don't. But again, it's like, and we can talk like another day. There's a whole other conversation to be had about how there were feminist movements that were more conservative and more assimilationist, not anti-ERA, but like trying to convince people that you're one of the good ones. You see this a lot with like early and even contemporary, like gay and lesbian rights organizations, like the homophile movement, the Daughters of Bilitis. This idea of like dressing conservatively and looking like a normal one. And we see this now with like the LGB without the T, right? Like, no, don't rock the boat. Don't wear the bloomers. Send out the pretty one. In terms of maintaining a certain look as a way to sort of maintain this proximity to power, or even just a way to convince people to come over to your side. How you present yourself says a lot about your politics and how many people you're going to be able to persuade. And that is the business of politics, is persuasion, right?
You reminded me of a professor I had in college who had been very active in the civil rights movement and was like, she herself is not really well known, but she was kicking around with like some powerful leaders in like the Black Power movement and just like the campus, protests in the 60s. And I remember her talking to like a young Marxist, younger professor at our college. And they were talking, this was like around the time of, I don't know if it was Occupy. I don't know.
Probably around the
They were
time of
talking
Occupy.
about,
We were in
it was
college about that
probably around
time.
the time of
Yeah.
Occupy. And they got into an argument or just a bit of a spat because she was saying, now she's like in her 70s at this point. She was saying, we were always told, look presentable, wear nylons, like be basically unimpeachable in your presentation for all the reasons that you're saying. And I remember the younger professor being like, I get where she's coming from and I really respect her experience and everything, and like she's an elder in the community, but like he was like really not having that. But it's just like, I think through every protest movement there is that faction that's like, look, do yourself a favor and don't let them fault you on your appearance. Don't make them hate you more because of that.
It's the assimilationist versus radical. It's the we're just like you and therefore we deserve your respect versus the we're nothing like you and we still deserve your respect.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, I almost think the word unimpeachable really hit a nerve because I just thinking about like, don't give them one more thing to hold against you
Mm-hmm.
is a almost, I don't know if I've ever really thought of it in that way of like, don't give them another, like one more thing for them to be able to say like, and you didn't even dress for this meeting.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because the thing about dressing for some of these occasions, and especially when we're talking about money, power, influence, politics, is it's the Succession thing, right? Like her overly capacious bag. It's the fact that you don't know like what is the appropriate attire is another way to wield power in those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Is to not, it's not just that like, oh, you're not dressed properly. It's that like you don't even fucking know what you're supposed to look like what it means to show up as someone with power, money, and affluence. And that
It reminds me of like John Fetterman showing up to Congress in like a hoodie and basketball shorts. And it's like, listen, I get what you're going for, dude, but like, you are walking into the halls of Congress. Like, and I understand your perspective here, but I need you to put on a suit. And I understand the hypocrisy in that, but there are also just moments where things are appropriate and inappropriate. And again, who decides those things? So just sort of to really quickly wrap up the ERA thing. The ERA has still not been ratified. It was semi-ratified very recently by the state of Virginia. But there has been court cases against it basically saying like the clock ran out. And I also don't see it really passing anytime soon with the whole what is a woman conversation happening right now. I feel like this was a somewhat simpler conversation that did totally left out trans people in the 1970s, but now it's like it is, you can't leave them out. And I'm very interested to see where it goes moving forward. So I don't want to end on like a horrible note. So let's talk about, go ahead.
I was going to say, can we end the ERA part on one at least good thing?
Yes, go ahead.
I fucking love that someone pied Phyllis Schlafly in the face.
I was thinking about the pie.
Did somebody pie Phyllis Schlafly? I know that somebody pied Anita Bryant.
They did, but there was a period of American politics where the most transgressive...
Was it a repeat pyre?
Yes, it was like a repeat pyre. And I also feel like it was like a thing, and people would pie people in the face in the middle of press conferences. And it was at a time when like security was far more lax. And frankly, bring it back.
Oh my God.
Pie people in the face.
I need to see this because I think of pieing with Anita Bryant during the anti-gay, all of her anti-gay bullshit.
It happened to Phyllis too. Here she is getting pied.
Sensational.
Yes.
Listen, I support all women, but not all women. Like it's like punch Nazis and pie anti-feminist bitches. Like I can't. You held back so much.
I just in my head sometimes I'm like, yeah, fuck your Chanel suit. Like I hope
Fuck your
that
Chanel
scene
suit.
And it's
never
so,
Title
you
came
know
of
out.
the
what's
episode.
Christina, it's like when someone like cuts you off in traffic and you give them a thumbs down. Like it's not mean. It's
It's
just like so.
It's my favorite thing. It's the only good thing an ex-boyfriend ever gave me was the thumbs down when someone cut.
I love it. My spouse does it. Like we both do it, but it's a pie in the face. Like no one's getting hurt.
Yeah,
It's not malicious.
it's not
But
violent.
damn, it is so annoying and humiliating and like makes you look fucking stupid. And that's
Yes.
what I love about it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I had a little more stuff, but I like ending on pieing Phyllis Schlafly. So just a few final thoughts. We touched upon this sort of throughout the episode, but like, how are we seeing this same tension sort of playing out today? And we touched upon this a little bit in the Schiaparelli episode, this sort of like when liberal ideals take over, things get a little more lax. We're like, cool, everybody can wear what they want, everyone's cool. And then there's always like a conservative backlash where it's
Yeah.
like, no. Ladies are over here and men are over here. And ladies dress like this and men dress like this. And we are experiencing one of these hardcore right now. We've got the idea of like the MAGA makeup or Republican makeup, the way that sort of especially very right-wing women are appearing with their I believe they're called Mormon curls, and really heavy old school makeup, very feminine. But the thing that is so weird about these women as opposed to somebody like Phyllis Schlafly or maybe the anti-suffragists is because they're like on the Trump train, they are so unpleasantly aggressive and so fucking mean. And I'm just like, how do they persuade people? It can't just be the makeup and the curls. Such a personality shift in my from my perspective.
I think that there is an element of in group and like you get to join that group and be mean to the ugly libs with us.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not, I don't think it's about persuading people from the other side. I think it's about getting people that already kind of agree with you to feel like they're in the cool mean girls club.
That they're empowered to say the mean thing. That's one of the
Yes.
things that I
And at least you're more beautiful. At least
that
you're
too.
pretty.
I heard something once from oh God, what is her name? Sherilyn Ifill on a podcast where she said what Trump brought out of people is we didn't realize how many people were like exhausted at the performance of decency and how many people weren't their hearts and minds were not changed by the civil rights movements and by the women's rights and the gay rights movement. There are so many people who think it's where like terms like politically correct and all that shit comes from. It's this idea that we are all as prejudiced and racist and misogynist and xenophobic as they are, and those of us who speak out against it are just faking it, right? So
we're all just not saying the thing.
Yeah,
you can't say anything these days.
Virtue signaling.
Not saying the thing.
Yeah.
What? Cannot. Well, I'm going to say the thing right now. Actually, I have a thought, which is one of the things I've noticed specifically about like what is now increasingly being associated with being like a right wing woman is that the what we're calling now like a hyper feminine look, I feel like has such deep origins. The modern sense that we're talking about, like the current, has such an origin to early aughts pornography.
Well, look at
And
who they're
that,
working
like-
for.
Right.
Right?
No, but I do think there's something there, and I think that it's interesting because like there's a large part of it that does feel incredibly sexually performative for a male gaze in this very heteronormative way. I think a lot of tradwives look a lot more like early aughts porn stars than they do like homesteaders.
It was such a misogynistic that
Yes.
like late 90s, early 2000s. It occurred to me back when I watched the Woodstock 99 documentary on Netflix, and I was like, God, the music that was coming out and just like the vibe was so for young dudes, and it was so misogynistic and
Like really hostile to women.
Yeah. And that it makes sense that like there is like a reversion to this very heightened Y2K porn star femininity that is sort of the
Well, and
look
if you
now.
think about it, because what the goal is, what it was for the anti-suffragists, what it was for Phyllis Schlafly, and what it is now is like you want a man to pick you, to protect you, and provide for you, so that you don't have to worry about having rights or making equal pay or like the goal is to appeal to men so much that they will extend this like paternalistic protection over you, and then you won't need to be
Yeah.
equal.
And the wild thing nowadays too is like anyone will tell you that like conservative men they don't want conservative women. They want liberal women that they cage, that they change. They want
Sure.
to break a liberal woman. They don't want some woman who's like, yes, absolutely, that's exactly what I want, because they're like they find that exhausting too, but they want to find a woman that they break like a horse.
Well, let's also not kid ourselves. And there's study after study about this, specifically about bodies, but I mean, it's true in all facets. To look a certain way, to be done up, to do your hair every day, to be on a 6-week highlight schedule, to have a body that is quote unquote desirable in some of these circles, that is a full fucking time job.
Mhm.
My body is part of my job, and I get so frustrated as a woman because if I have an audition, I need to bake in at least an hour to get ready for that before I can even talk about doing the actual work as an actor. Like I
Mhm.
probably need to bake in enough time to like do my hair, do my makeup, get dressed, pick clothes, and like my male counterparts literally just like put on a button down and get to focus on their work. And so to deny the fact that this is a very, very apt distraction that keeps women busy mentally and physically and emotionally from actually looking around and giving a shit about what's going on. Like I think that would be denialistic to say that it's not that is part of the goal. Is like
Absolutely.
if we have to look a certain way, that keeps us busy. If we are so worried about being thin, that keeps that portion of your brain concerned.
And also just like the immense double standard of women having to worry about something like bloomers or a dress, or is this outfit too slutty, or do I look too like the constant the tapes that are playing all the time, the things that we have to consider, especially in spaces where again you're trying to be persuasive, you're trying to get people on your side, where you don't know how somebody is going to take you. I know people who will immediately judge you if you have tattoos, will immediately judge you if you have blue hair, will immediately judge you if there is anything remotely queer about you. It is an instant hurdle that they're going to have to then mentally jump to. Again, don't do the thing that is going to the one more thing that is going to take them away from your side.
I think it's
And
also
yeah.
surprising to a lot of people how deeply that's ingrained, even if they think it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have had moments like that. I know a lot of people who've had very significant moments like that of like if I've showed up somewhere and am not wearing makeup, it's like a very like, "Oh, are you okay?" And but that the conceit of that is fucking wild.
Yeah.
Like because I didn't choose to be performative in a certain way today, you are concerned for my physical well-being. And I think people do it without I feel like Chelsea was just talking about this recently, but like we do it without recognizing that we're doing it. It's so ingrained in us and how presentation is supposed to go, and we like each of us have our own versions that have been chipped away. But, you know, like look, I'm not going to be happy until there's a president with a face tattoo.
Full Mike Tyson, a female president with
A
a
female
face
president with a
tattoo.
face tattoo.
I want. Well, if we learn nothing else from this, it's throw pies at people who are holding back progress. Punch Nazis and throw pies, I think is.
And wear red lipstick.
And wear red
Wear-
lipstick. Always wear red lipstick. All right, gang. Thanks for letting me shoehorn gender history into this podcast. It's always appreciated. But yeah, pie anti-feminists. Pie a turf. Find a turf. Throw a pie at her face.
You know which one.
Amen.
Yeah, you know which one. If you can get
You
close
know which
enough,
one.
get in there.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, please tell your friends. We'd love to have them. And be sure to follow us on all of our socials at Vanity Veritas Pod. We will be back. In the meantime, remember, trends come and go, but vanity is timeless.